What's going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're having yourselves a lovely day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into some SCP lore here today. We're going to check out SCP-2510, Our Broken Salvation by the Exploring series. From what I understand, I didn't tell you to start video. From what I understand here, from his description, apparently this story is no longer available on the site, I guess due to plagiarism issues. So I guess this SCP may or may not have any relevance at all anymore in the SCP universe, but we'll find out as we go through it. So links will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. So if you could please do me a favor, if you enjoy this video as we go through it, give it a like. And if you enjoy the Exploring series content and you have not gone over there and hit that sub button on this channel yet, please do me a favor of doing that. It makes a lot of wonderful content for the SCP universe as well as others. So please show the man some love. If you'd like to join us when we do these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. So if you've been around the channel for a while and decide you want to take your support to the next level, check those out. See if any of that would have any interest for you. Well, that said, get into this video here. Again, this is the Exploring series, SCP-2510, Our Broken Salvation. Let me open the, there we go.
SCP-2510, Our Broken Salvation.
We're already starting off good with some Stargate references here. I love Stargate, SG-1, Atlantis, Stargate Universe. I would love them to actually get another good series of Stargate off the ground. We need some more Stargate in the sci-fi world. But yeah, already starting off good here with this art.
There are a lot of hidden wars going on in the SCP universe. The wars between the SCP Foundation and various other organizations, such as the Chaos Insurgency, the Invisible War in SCP-2480, the God War that occurred in Daleport, and so on.
I haven't gotten into that yet.
One of the most notable ongoing wars, however,
God War
is the one
sounds
between
interesting.
the Sarkic cults and the Church of the Broken God.
And to me, again, this was some of the earliest stuff that I got into in the SCP, universe. But I don't know, just the whole idea and lore of these being kind of an ancient civilization that has been, in a fundamental opposing ideal war for as long as it has been, and the fact that Meccan himself essentially used himself to imprison like Yaldabaoth. I don't know. The whole lore of the war between the Church of the Broken God and the Sarkics and Yaldabaoth has just been, it's fascinating. It's one of the most interesting things to me in the SCP universe. So anything that expands on this lore is something that I'm down for.
I've touched upon this in the past in both my Sarkicism video and my Broken God video, but there's a lot more to go into. SCP-2510 is a curious artifact that shows us the extent of this war, its potential culminating effects, and what the Foundation might be able to do to help.
Interesting. I'm here for it.
2510 is a massive machine located in the southern Indian Ocean, with 95% of its interior flooded or damaged beyond accessibility. The machine's original purpose is completely unknown, as it is no longer functional. The Foundation has been busy at work reverse engineering parts of the machine, however, resulting in the creation of 2 new SCPs and replicating the effects of a third.
I feel like it's very dangerous, especially with them knowing what happened to that, like, false Meccan god that was created in Mexico, whatever that SCP number was that ran rampant, that they then had to contain and destroy or whatever. Like, yeah, it's pretty dangerous to go reverse engineering and playing with the stuff. But at the same time, who knows what also kind of beneficial event, technologies could come from that.
They do know the machine is pretty old, however, as its current situation is the result of rust, sedimentation, volcanic activity, and the structural deformation of the Earth's crust.
Yeah,
the machine was first discovered by a navigator in 1772, who claimed the island where the machine is located for the French crown. Nobody really noticed the machine, however, until 1949, when reports emerged of a German auxiliary cruiser that had docked on the island to perform maintenance and replenish water supplies. The crew was harvesting ice off of the surface of the island when they struck something artificially constructed. The Germans assumed at first they had discovered an ancient shipwreck and began excavating it in hopes of finding treasure. The men that returned were delirious, suffering from acute radiation poisoning.
Interesting.
Those that survived the ordeal reported finding a machine city. The Foundation, of course, swooped in, and after extensively researching the anomaly, declared the entire Kerguelen Plateau to be SCP-2510, an area roughly 3 times larger than Japan. An armed containment site was built around the above-ground entrance to 2510, and they soon discovered the existence of SCP-2510-1. 2510-1 is a trans-dimensional gateway powered by an unknown and inaccessible power source, and controlled by an ancient pipe organ. Neither the gateway nor the controlling mechanism seems to be part of the original construction of 2510, instead made with repurposed 2510 parts at some point in the past.
So it sounds like this thing was here for a long time, may have been lost, damaged, destroyed, or whatever. Someone else found it, reprogrammed how it functions through some kind of organ, and then again, like a pipe organ or whatever, and then again, the city was lost and then had been found again. So, like, how old is this place then?
By manipulating the system, the gateway can open dimensional portals to a number of different locations.
Straight up Stargate. It's straight up Stargate, but instead of having a computer system, it's done by playing, pipe organ.
A team was formed consisting of 5 scientists and commanded by a World War II veteran, Captain Hadley. The team, MTF Alpha 5, Paranauts, had been trained and equipped for trans-dimensional exploration, and the first expedition occurred on November 15, 1952. Each team member was supplied with suits providing breathable oxygen and were capable of protecting individuals from hazardous material and inhospitable environments. These suits were also tethered back to home base to maintain connection to the life support systems and sustain radio contact. The portal was configured to allow access to the first alternate dimension, and the team entered. Hadley reports that they are on a totally barren landscape, dusty and gray, with no signs of life anywhere to be seen. The team's astrophysicist reports that the alignment of the stars coincides with that of Earth, and he guesses they're somewhere near the equator.
Interesting. So the idea is that it would transport them to a different world, but it seems to have transported them to a different place on Earth. However, I would assume this could be a different reality on Earth. Like, they're in a different reality, different dimension.
The team begins to explore the landscape and take what samples they can, but overall it seems pretty empty. After returning, Hadley reports that the soil samples taken were completely devoid of nutrients, and the consensus was that all life on this planet was obliterated, down to bacteria.
Wow.
They're not sure what happened,
completely
but
dead planet.
This is a dead world. I know this sounds similar to the situation from SCP-2935, but just wait. 2 weeks went by before the second expedition on November 29th,
What is
1952, when the gateway was tuned to the second dimension. A live video feed was set up in addition to the radio contact. Hadley says that they've apparently exited from a washroom in an artificially constructed area similar to a subway tunnel. He says the washroom was disgusting, and he saw a few humans that looked pretty sick, but they are ignoring them and sticking to the shadows. The air here is polluted but breathable, and the team removes some of their heavier life support equipment. The team separates in order to find out as much about the environment as they can. The engineer finds a large amount of graffiti on the walls, which blends in with the architecture of the structures. He says it looks Greek, with a lot of spiral symbols, the most common of which displays 3 curves emanating from a central point. If this is starting to sound...
Oh, was that Allegata? Is that the picture that he always shows from Allegata with the
which blends in with the architecture of the structures.
The thing from the Lovecraftian story, the Yellow King or whatever.
He says it looks Greek, with a lot of spiral symbols, the most common of which displays 3 curves emanating from a central point.
Yeah, isn't that it? Isn't that symbol you keep showing? It has to do with the Yellow King story or whatever. That's also kind of like tied with Allegata in some way. Am I mistaken?
If this is starting to sound familiar, you might be thinking of SCP-2480, an unfinished ritual,
yeah,
where Dr. Narvaez saw a number of spiral symbols around the town. It's no coincidence that 2480 is heavily involved in Sarkicism, and spiral symbols are popping up in this world. The engineer says that although it seems that they were in some sort of underground subway station, there are no rail tracks to be seen. Everything has a glossy reflection, like it's all moist and slimy.
Disgusting.
Suddenly, the tunnel begins to vibrate, and humans in the area gather at the edge of a platform. A massive, fleshy entity the size of a train moves down the tunnel and up to the platform. It is pale white in appearance, with countless legs, and it chatters and hisses as natives walk into massive holes on its body. Some people also stepped out of it onto the platform, covered in slime. The insect then crawls forward into the tunnels, out of sight. Some of the native humans approach the engineer, staring at him with blank eyes. He attempts to communicate with them, but one of them opens its mouth, unhinging its jaw and revealing more than 60 needle-like teeth.
Yikes.
It then screeches in excess of 150 decibels, and all of the locals drop to their hands and knees and scatter into the darkness.
Yikes.
The engineer says that it apparently covered their equipment with saliva, and the team regroups to leave. In the post-operation report, we find out a bit more about this strange world. Hadley says that it felt like they were being watched the entire time they were there, but they eventually made it to the surface. They discovered a city teeming with life, but corrects himself to say hive instead. They found black banners everywhere, adorned with...
It feels like, yeah, the portal they're going through is sending them to different Earths in different realities. The other one that they went to was, you know, Earth that had gone through some kind of something that left it a dead planet. And this one sounds like it's a world where Yaldabaoth and the Sarkics have taken over, and this is what human life is mutated into or whatever. I don't know.
A yellow spiral
sounds
symbol,
pretty terrible.
And the anthropologist said it felt familiar to her somehow. That, of course, is identical to what Dr. Narvaez found in the town of 2480 under the effects of DMT.
Right.
They also report that the natives stared at them without blinking, and the DNA sample from the saliva on their equipment was mostly human.
Mostly.
There were also spires constructed of some sort of organic material that reached up into the sky.
That looks like that's straight out of Half-Life 2.
If it's not already very obvious, this SCP and 2480 were both written by the same author, and published around the same time. You might just think that this is the alternate dimension bleeding into our world through 2480, but it's a bit more complicated than that, as we'll see. On their way back to the portal, the geologist was scratched by a native, tearing right through her suit.
Yikes.
The wound is infected, and she's running up a high fever. On December 6th,
Rip.
the portal was activated to the third dimension, and the team went through, minus their geologist, who is still in critical condition. The team enters into an environment blanketed in a heavy yellow fog that reeks of sulfur. Hadley reports seeing shapes in the haze and guesses they might be in a forest. They quickly learn that the shapes are not trees, but sinewy organisms comprised of flesh. The team begins to hear hundreds of sounds like heartbeats pulsating at different speeds, and the ground shakes. The flesh tree in front of them pulls away from the ground.
The flesh tree. I'm turning around and going back in the portal. Thank you. I'm out. That's a big nope for me.
Revealing a proboscis with several wiggling tongue appendages. The entity retreats into the sky through unknown means, leaving a gaping hole in the ground. A mass of squirming organic material erupts from the hole and proceeds to slither towards the team. It hurls a bone-like projectile at the camera as Hadley shouts at his team to retreat. They successfully made it back to our dimension,
from orbit,
revealing that their microphones had picked up a deep, low sound in the background, chanting in an unknown language. After analyzing a DNA sample taken from the tree-like entity, the result was mostly human.
Yeah.
4 days later, the portal was activated to the fourth dimension, and the team began to enter, still minus their geologist. As soon as Captain Hadley entered, however, the portal sealed shut, and would no longer open to that dimension. All attempts to rescue Hadley were unsuccessful, and his fate is completely unknown.
That's a big yikes, brother.
Even though Hadley was lost, the Foundation still wanted to know what was through the fifth and final dimension accessible by the portal. On December 20th, 1952, the portal was activated again, but this time it was unusually transparent, allowing the Foundation to see through to the other side. The other side consisted of a cubicle room with a matching appearance to SCP-2510, so the team's engineer volunteered to enter. There were no other exits in this room, and the only thing of note was a heavy bronze object, which was brought back through. The bronze object is a humanoid clockwork automaton of ancient Greek design, with no detectable anomalies. The Foundation found a punch card mechanism, but no obvious means of operating it. The team's engineer and historian worked together for 3 years to create usable punch cards by translating ancient Greek into a binary system.
Sounds some kind of like Daedalus invention or something like that, you know?
By inputting single-word questions, the device would return a pre-recorded response in ancient Greek. The first question asked was purpose. The response was that this is the final testament of Patriarch Erastos, a servant of Mechan, the broken god. The second question was about Mechan, to which it responded that Mechan is the anvil where we are all forged and perfected. Mechan was sundered to save us, but it is broken, not dead. When asked about the portal, it responds that it, or in this case Erastos, was to shepherd the most talented of the Mechanites south for some reason, but the flesh tormented them. It mentions the Sarkic demiurge, more commonly known in the SCP universe as Yaldabaoth. Asked about the flesh, the device drops a lot of information, although admittedly it's hard to piece together. Overall, it's not anything new if you're already familiar with the war between the Sarkites and the Church of the Broken God.
Right.
Sarkites believe that Yaldabaoth, a creator deity, is meant to reform the universe into one of instinctual flesh. Mechanites believe that Mechan is meant to reform the universe into one of logic and order. The two groups don't get along too well. The device specifically mentions both Adatum, an ancient city where Sarkicism was founded, and Grand Karcist Ion, generally considered the founder of Sarkicism. After this, the geologist would die of her infection, believed to be the earliest recorded instance of a certain SCP. The number of the SCP in the article is blacked out, but it's highly likely that this is meant to be SCP-610, the flesh that hates, a biological.
That's kind of what I was. That's kind of what I was going for from the thing. Yeah.
A weapon utilized by the Sarkites. Both the engineer as well as the astrophysicist would go missing, with the astrophysicist last seen rambling about black stars and a fifth world. The engineer injured several personnel while stealing the bronze device, and neither have been seen since.
Huh. So the astrophysicist and the engineer went crazy or something? Working on this automaton? Like, what? What is happening? It sounds like opening this portal to anything has just turned out bad. Like, there was a dead world. There was straight up a Sarkic world. There was a portal that just straight up snatched someone and they have no idea what's happened. And now they've got some kind of automaton that seems to have also, like, driven two of its people crazy. Like, this is not turning out to be a very worthwhile project.
Some were concerned that the death of the geologist affected the two, as they were both close to her. The astrophysicist had requested several rare books on the occult prior to his disappearance, including a book with a title that roughly translates to Message of the Black Star. Whether or not this has anything to do with fifthism is anyone's guess.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
The fifthism tag. He ended up breaking the engineer's nose in a scuffle before disappearing, apparently over a difference of philosophy. 2 weeks later, the 2510 site came under attack by the Church of the Broken God forces, and the engineer used the chaos to steal the bronze automaton and escape. Perhaps not a coincidence that the engineer's name was Dr. Maxwell, and one of the branches of the Church of the Broken God devoted to modern technology is called Maxwellism. So,
not a coincidence.
Some sort of portal system built by followers of the Broken God that allows access to alternate dimensions that seem to all have some sort of Sarkic influence.
Yeah.
Fortunately, at the bottom of the article, we're given an explanation.
Okay.
Something seems to have hijacked the Foundation's systems, and opens with a quote written by Zosimos of Panopolis, an Egyptian alchemist who wrote the oldest surviving material we have on alchemy. Zosimos wrote of a dream he had in which he met a man named Ion, who was a priest of the Automaton, and described how Ion dismembered him and burnt him on a fire until his body transformed. Interesting connection.
Fuck?
The individual responsible for hacking the system then goes into an explanation. It says that our iteration of reality continues to exist because we possess the power to lead humanity away from the nightmare. It will tell us what it can, but the whole truth cannot be properly translated to current human understanding. Convenient. It says that there is a universal constant across all realities of light against dark,
right,
and a provider of wisdom and intellect that frees us from ignorance. It says that the Broken God is not our creator, and is not of our universe, but instead Yaldabaoth, the god of flesh, created us.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of known, right? Like, Yaldabaoth created all life, like, in its kind of like basic form, but then Meccan took it and gave us logic and reason instead of just basic instinct. You know? That's why we're able to exist and create civilization and technology and stuff that we have, and we're not just essentially still base animals. That's my understanding is how it went.
The Broken God.
It's also interesting that, from what I understand, every alternate dimension where the Mechanites have like won and essentially taken over the world, humanity has gone into like massive eras of prosperity, advancement, and have expanded like beyond just Earth. And those universes seem to be universally like at peace and cool, whereas everything where the Sarkics have won have all devolved down into like either dead worlds or, you know, kind of like Nurgle things where flesh and like pestilence run wild. You know, I don't know.
It was a patient teacher that taught us logic and reason. Again, this was all explained in my Church of the Broken God video.
Right.
There was a war of cosmic proportions outside of space and time, where Meccan was destroyed, but as a final act, secured Yaldabaoth within its shattered husk.
May have sacrificed himself, essentially, to seal Yaldabaoth. And then we got into another video where I forget what it was called in the SCP number, but there might have actually be like a whole facility where Yaldabaoth is encaged.
Pieces of the broken god scattered across every iteration of our world. Most, if not all, of the anomalies handled...
See, that's interesting. The idea of the broken god, like pieces of them aren't just on one planet, but pieces of them are scattered through the multiverse over different iterations of Earth. So in order to actually like get all the pieces and put them back together, you would have to travel through the different iterations of our Earth, which is probably why this portal was created to begin with. Some Meccan scientists or whatever created this in order to do that, I would assume.
By the SCP Foundation are... Most, if not all, of the anomalies handled by the SCP Foundation are...
Have a good one, Howard. Thanks for stopping by, brother.
As it rattles within its many cages. The individual tells us that 2 millennia ago, a priest of Meccan received a vision that Yaldabaoth had crafted 6 loyal archons before its fall. These archons had set in motion a plan to liberate Yaldabaoth from its cage. This vision brought the Mechanite priest to a frigid and faraway land, where they would use the husk of the broken god to create a doorway. This doorway would allow access to other iterations of our world, where the seals grew corrupted. In other words, worlds where the Mechanites failed to win the war against the Sarkites.
Right.
In the first dimension we saw, the desolate landscape, the Mechanites used parts of the broken god to forge a weapon that cleansed the world of all life. Certainly a victory against the Sarkites,
in some ways,
not exactly what you'd call a huge success. In the second dimension, the weird subway tunnel in Hive City, the Mechanites lost a key victory early on in their war, which they won in most other realities. This quickly led to a world run by the Sarkites, where an aspect of Yaldabaoth broke free.
And
pretty much the same thing happened in the third dimension, with the yellow fog, but a slightly different result. In the end, only the original prophet that had the vision of the doorway was left, and he was visited by an angel of invention. This angel helped him create that bronze automaton,
interesting,
and he put it in a pocket plane in the 5th dimension, which was...
Okay. I wonder, like, wasn't there another story, I think it was tied with Alagata, right? About an angel giving them directions on how to create and do certain things, right? And didn't that lead to like a portal kind of being opened to Alagata that they tried to get through and was eventually sealed? But yeah, I don't know. It seems like a similar instance happening, but just in a different way.
Was another world beyond saving. The 4th dimension, however, the one where Captain Hadley disappeared into, is apparently a reality devoid of anomalies. with no corruption by Yaldabaoth.
Huh.
In this reality, humanity achieved a technological singularity 20,000 years ago, combining Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, and SCP-1000, the Children of the Night, into one unified civilization.
Interesting.
This civilization managed to spread across the stars and joined up with other sapient races, bringing peace and harmony across the galaxy.
Straight up Star Trek.
The individual finishes its message by saying that we could sacrifice our world like the first dimension, or fail to protect it like the others, or we could succeed like the fourth dimension. Our reality is apparently the last one whose fate has not been decided. And if Yaldabaoth breaks free in our reality, the scales will be tipped in its favor.
Of course. And I mean, that's an interesting idea for a story, right? That this multiversal war has been going on between these two factions inside. The fate has been decided on all of these, literally every other universe. The war has been decided, and our planet is the last front for who essentially wins the war. It's an interesting idea for a concept of a story. You know, I could again, as I've said numerous times, a very fascinating, TV show in this SCP universe where this is how things have worked. I could easily see being done, and they could potentially use this portal and gateway to go to these alternate dimensions to try to learn things, how things went bad, how things went, good, finding different technologies, etc., to bring back to our home reality and try to turn things in, I guess what could be considered a positive direction,
manifesting in every possible reality. The individual mentions that there are some on their side that believe they must act against us, perhaps torching our world entirely to prevent the Sarkites from winning. It offers us an ultimatum to discard our organic prisons and become a part of the divine machine, or face the consequences of our inaction. It ends by saying that God is broken so that we might be whole, and signs off with Brother Hadleyus. I think we know what happened to Captain Hadley. So basically, this portal was designed to look at all the other versions of our world, and see in which ones the Mechanites won, and which ones the Sarkites won. This way they could figure out the best way to win the war. Unfortunately, things don't look good for the Mechanites, as the Sarkites seem to be dominating the multi-dimensional war. There is this one dimension, however, that seems pretty good, with super advanced technology, awesome spacefaring adventures, and peace for everyone. They just had to discard all the fleshy stuff that makes us human. Honestly, it all sounds a bit too good to be true. While we certainly could take this as clear evidence that the Mechanites are all completely awesome and on the level and just want to help out humanity, it's hard to be sure.
Well, I mean, when anyone gives you an ultimatum, essentially, of either join us and do what we say or we're going to have to destroy you, there's definitely some shade there, right? I mean, granted, you understand that they're trying to do it. They're saying that in order to, safeguard their survival, right? Like, what would you do in a scenario where, your universe, your reality, or whatever has essentially achieved a kind of unification and peace that no other reality has? And I mean, yeah, you maybe there's a sacrifice of certain amount of individualism. Who knows how it really works, right? Like, you would think because they're all mechanical in some way that they would be connected in some kind of, internet structure kind of way, right? That could potentially span the entire universe. You know, maybe all of the mechans throughout the entire universe are connected through some kind of, you know, subspace internet connection of some sort. Who knows? Who knows how that would really work, right? And then, you know, at that point, it's like, is there any kind of individualism, etc.? Or maybe they aren't. Maybe they do have some kind of aspect of individuality that is, you know, left over from humanity. But, you know, the idea that they've achieved some kind of great peace that extends throughout their universe that no other universe seems to have accomplished, and you know it's threatened by another reality, so they give you the ultimatum of join or die, because we can't risk our, you know, reality being corrupted. You know, it's understandable, but at the same time, obviously it's, you know, a shady ultimatum, and they're willing to essentially commit genocide on a universal scale to protect themselves.
Definitely doesn't look like the Sarkic life is all that great either.
Not really.
But the Foundation aren't jumping to answer the Mechanites' call. SCP-2510 is absolutely connected to SCP-2480,
which was a pretty fascinating
but not to the point of knowledge of
video.
One is required for the other. It seems that the Sarkites are working on multiple angles to corrupt our world in order to win the war. One being the spread of SCP-610, and another being the blending of our reality with one where Sarkicism already won through SCP-2480. In the end, it's just another fascinating SCP, and another piece of the Mechanite and Sarkic puzzle. At this point, there will likely need to be a whole separate canon, in which this war comes to a climax in our reality.
Which I would love. I would love. Any kind of SCP authors out there, I would love to see it. I would love to see a very, you know, detailed, thorough storyline telling of this war, how it comes to, you know, a culmination and end in some way, shape, or form in our universe in the SCP, with going, you know, through historical issues that could have happened, you know, heroes rising on both sides, villains rising on both sides, how it affects everyone in between, etc. Would be absolutely fascinating. I would be down for it.
But for now, we at least got a glimpse of the end game.
Yeah, which are extremes on both sides. Thus, I offer you this ultimatum. You can learn what it means to be human as nothing to do with biological life. You have the means to inoculate your world. Discard your organic prison, take off your mask, and join us. If that doesn't sound like Adeptus Mechanicus, I don't know, man. That's just some straight up, you know, called Mechanicus stuff right there. I remember when I was of your reality. I walked the astral plane as the prophet did before me. I remember hatred, anger, and ignorance, bigotry, and nationalism. I feel great shame for who I was, but like you, I could not know any better. All would change when I entered that final portal. Become a gear. Be part of the divine machine. Or face the consequences of your inaction. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, it's, anytime an ultimatum like that is posed, there's going to be resistance. And then obviously, you know, again, as I said, it's understandable to an extent where they're just trying to protect themselves and their way of life, but they're also seemingly willing to commit genocide on a potential universal scale to protect themselves. So, I mean, like, again, logically speaking, that's sound logic, you know, but there's not any kind of room for emotion in there. And I think that's also part of the battle of this, is like, we right now as humans are kind of an in-between of both extremes. The Sarkic extreme of just being kind of a unified whole that is nothing but run off of base instinct and only driven by instinctual needs and wants and pleasures, versus the mechan side of thing, which is an existence of strictly, you know, logic and technology, you know, technological, based on technology, essentially, you know. And so like we in our reality are kind of right in the middle, where we have these great advances of technology that have, you know, obviously enhanced and eased our lives, but we still obviously have our, you know, individuality and are still can be ruled by our base instincts and emotions. And so it's almost kind of like we are being forced to choose, you know, do we want to just give into those base instincts and emotions and evolve down into that, or give up those base instincts and emotions altogether and not really necessarily know potentially, you know, love and hatred and all those kind of emotions that make us who we are, for just an existence of pure logic, you know. And who knows to say what's better than others. But like I said, I am all about this canon and lore between the Sarkics and the Broken God. It's one of the more fascinating aspects to me of the SCP universe, and I would absolutely love to see, you know, an author or group of authors, whatever, you know, create a canonized story of, you know, the culmination of this battle between the Sarkics and all the various Sarkic factions and the Church of the Broken God and all of its factions, and, you know, etc. And I would just love to see how that plays out. And, you know, like I said, the various heroes and villains from all the various factions and all of that. It would just be awesome. It would be awesome to see. So, but yeah, another great video by the Exploring series. That was SCP-2510, Our Broken Salvation. Links, as always, down below in the description to the original video, that, my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Do me a favor, click those links, and if you enjoyed this video, go give it a like. And if you enjoy the Exploring series content that we go through on this channel, you know, he's one of the main channels that we do reactions to in the SCP universe. So if you do me a favor, you know, if you haven't hit that sub button on his channel, hit that sub button. He makes a lot of wonderful content for the SCP universe and others. So do me a favor of showing the man some support. If you would like to join us when we do these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. If you want to take your support to the next level, check those out and see if any of that would have any interest for you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful day, everybody.